Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, wherever you listen. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast, and we're in full strength here. We got the tripod. Jamal is no longer a bearded bandit. I don't know what happened. We thought we had him going, but his beard is gone. But
man, it's 3 days, bro. At 3 days, it gets too scratchy for me. I can't handle it then, It's too long and scratchy. 72 hours, then I got to shave it off.
You have to get past that 7-day mark. Then you're
you got to get past
7-day mark. 7-day mark. You're going to start getting me confused with people on most wanted lists at 7 days. You don't want that. So,
yeah. Once you get past the rough stage, it's all good. You just got to come in and take care of it.
There you go. You guys are both very strong beard game for both of you, gentlemen. Absolutely. It's getting ready for the season. Is there any shaving going to be taking place pre-LSU, or is this kind of a, hey, no shave until LSU?
Well, I feel like I got it since our little bet. I got to wait till Michigan now. So then I'll just keep it going. And then if they beat Michigan, then it's all coming off. So I might as well keep it rolling.
3-0, and it comes off.
Yeah. Ooh, that's going to be a rough Wisconsin game the next week.
Definitely. Speaking of that, how are you doing, Jamal?
Doing
the Madman.
Great to see you guys. Great to see you guys. Absolutely excited to talk. I don't think I've talked to you guys since Big Ten Media Day, so that was so much fun. And, I got to give a big shout out to, LAFB at Big Ten Media Day. And our man, Will the Thrill, who was on last week, he was going crazy on Big Ten Media Day, even though he's covering the crosstown rivals in the scrum with Lincoln, asking Dan Lanning questions, Brett Bielema questions. The guy was on TV everywhere. So big shout out to Will the Thrill, doing the yeoman's work, for the entire conference. It felt like, what a great job that was. LAFB was repping strong.
I say this all the time. I always tell Will the Thrill it's not too late to be a Trojans fan.
No, man, but you see, he's got such great heart. He's UCLA through and through. But he went into the scrum, asked Lincoln questions, asked all the SC questions because he cares more about LAFB than anything else. That's the ultimate logo at the end of the day. As are you, Coach. You've come to a lot of UCLA folks' aid in the past as well. So it's you guys. There's a heart of gold. Heart of gold.
Ryan, what's your beautiful Southern California background?
Woo!
How are you doing today? And do you want to tell people where you are?
Yeah, no, good. Glad the three of us finally are back together. But just out at Chargers training camp, actually. So USC Media Day yesterday, Chargers camp today. But hey, a lot of Trojans out here. Brennan Rice looking good. Tui Pelotu. Shane Lee is on this team. Keo McDonald, former running back coach, is now the running back coach here. So a lot of ties. But yeah, good to be with you guys.
That's good. So, big news coming out of the weekend. I know we're a little bit late. A lot of people reported it, but we kind of predicted it. We predicted it and said maybe it is going to happen, and we knew what we had to do. If there was a they do Recruiter of the Year, but I don't know if this guy's eligible for it. But Julian Lewis is the Big Ten Recruiter of the Year. I don't care what anybody says. This dude is hard to go. He goes out and he recruits his guys in the state of Georgia, and he got them there. And Perlotte is now officially committed to the University of Southern California. This is a big-time commit. Like I said on our last show, Lincoln Riley is building up his defense. He's got this. He's not a defensive guy. And a lot of his focus has been on the defense, and he's been bringing in big-time guys for the 25 class for defense. What I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, like right now for the 26 class, like 3 of the 4 are defensive guys, right? We got the tall corner from Loyola. We got the guy from St. John Bosco. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we got Griffin. Like 3 of the 4 guys that are committed right now are defensive guys. So he's building up a defense, and if you want to win championships, you got to win it through defense. And he's doing an excellent job. He's backing up everything he said he was going to do. Right now, it's not seeming like it's all talk. And I know we critiqued him about being all talk, but he's backing up what he said he's going to do. He's moving in the right direction. But now, you know what today is, right? There's a bunch of 300-pounders carrying box fans and duffel bags moving in the floor tower because camp starts tomorrow, right? So it's getting to the point to where now officially he has to back it up. But this Perlotte commit is excellent. Another defensive lineman, up front guy, got to go get the quarterback. Like all the old school peers say, it all starts up front. And so doing a great job. I'm excited about this. And hopefully it works out. We get him to stay. You know, the biggest thing now is, can you get him to stay? So hopefully we get him to stay. Hopefully the money's right. Now we just have to wait till December and keep him happy. Jamal, how do you feel about this commitment?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great one, Coach. And obviously there's something in that Georgia water, that Georgia grass, and the battle continues here. It seems like with the Trojans and the state of Georgia. Really a lot to love about Jadon Perlotte. Obviously, he's a top 200 recruit nationally in the class of 2025. I would say, Coach, kind of a linebacker first. That's sort of the primary position. 21st ranked linebacker in the country in the class of 2025, 27th best prospect in the state of Georgia. So I think you're accomplishing a couple of things. One is you're continuing to kind of let those Georgia recruits know that you're not going anywhere despite some of the things that happened earlier. But then you're focusing on defense as well. And then third, I think it's just really important reinforcement and this notion of being able to reload. We have to remember, if you look at this linebacking room, there's a possibility of a number of exits after this season. When you think about Gentry and Cobb and Rajon Davis, and the list goes on. So the opportunity to kind of reload and rebuild that bench moving forward with some top recruits, great athletes. He's kind of a sideline-to-sideline guy. So very excited about this. A great win so far. Obviously, long way to go until December. But, you got to keep the pedal to the metal.
Mr. Dairu, what do you have to say about the commitment?
Yeah, I think we covered most of it even last week when we were kind of prefacing that it was looking likely and stuff. I think the cool thing is, he's committed to Georgia since December 8th, 2022. So a long time commit to Georgia. And then after his visit, just last weekend, basically flipped him. And it was, to my knowledge, was the one and only visit. Obviously, there's been recruiting going on behind the scenes and whatnot, not just the visit. So, hats off to the staff. Obviously, looking like a linebacker, but I know Coach Henne was very involved in the recruiting. So curious if that leans to if they'll move him to the D-line or if they want to keep him at that linebacking spot. But certainly a tremendous athlete, great size. I think you guys said already, but like 6'3", 210, going into his senior year. So can certainly put more bulk on, as we've seen this USC team do this past offseason. So, don't need to have much more. Great get. Glad it's official, but now let's make sure it stays official until December.
So what did we learn here? The lessons I've been telling people the whole time, even with our guys who committed early, don't let your kids go on other visits, because the prettiest girl is what have you done for me lately. You always have fun on your visit and you're ready to commit, and they got them to commit. So don't let our kids next year go on visits, Lincoln. Once they commit, keep them off the visit trail. Definitely. So good deal.
I think, Coach, to that point also, we got to keep the pedal to the metal, right? Because, you can't expect Georgia to just lie down, right? It does make me slightly nervous to the point that Ryan made, where he's been committed to Georgia from December of 22. I mean, to be committed to one place for 18 months and then kind of go to a visit and then flip, you can sort of interpret that one of two ways. One is he was just sort of wowed and, he was sort of kind of self-contained in Georgia, perhaps maybe didn't take the number of visits and the variety of visits that maybe other recruits of his stature would take. And so he kind of came to USC, blown away by the staff, blown away by the vision, all good things. Or the other alternative is to say, was this maybe a little bit impulsive? He's a young kid, maybe just kind of got caught up in the weekend when he goes back home, and sort of recenters and rethinks, and that Georgia phone kind of keeps ringing. Does he sort of get a change of heart again and sort of go back to the incumbent, which is kind of what we've seen earlier in the spring. So I don't know how to kind of take that yet, that he's been committed so long at Georgia. If you see the glass half full, you're like, hey, he got blown away. If you're being a little bit more pragmatic about it, you want to be sort of cautiously optimistic. So I think, again, this is also going to be an interesting study. We're all learning here. I mean, the recruits are kind of learning the new world, but I think these staffs are sort of learning, to your point, Coach, about timing. When is the best time to recruit? And then also, how do you think about guys that have kind of committed maybe prematurely, and how long, and when's the best time to pluck them? When's the best time to maybe, let go of the rope on a particular recruit, and all of those things. So I think we're still very much in sort of that learning phase. It'll be interesting to see if we bring Perlotte home, and how that sort of guides and informs recruiting thinking moving forward.
I have faith in the Big Ten recruiter of the year. I think Julian Lewis will keep him. Keep him at SC. Julian Lewis, I will say this. Julian Lewis is, and I said this last week, I'll reiterate this. Julian Lewis is a selfless guy, and hasn't even stepped on campus yet. Like, he's all about how can he make the team better. And there's been like multiple occasions where he's been the guy to help bring a guy home, or he's been the guy to help a guy commit, and he's out there recruiting and trying to get people to go to SC, and he hasn't even practiced one day yet. He still has a whole nother season of of high school football, but from what he's shown so far shows that he's really selfless and he's really a team guy. And I hope that translates to his time at USC. Like, my hat really goes off to him. Like, I'm already a big fan of him, and he hasn't even played yet. Even if it doesn't work out and he ends up like not being the guy, I will still be a big fan of him. Hopefully he stays in the Cardinal Gold the whole time, because I mean, that's what a Trojan truly is right there. It's not about the number on the name on the back of your jersey. It's about the interlock SC at the V. So definitely, my hat goes off to Julian Lewis. I just had to say that. So Big Ten Recruiter of the Year, man. I'm proud of you, and hopefully we do get him to come home in that second week of December or first week of December, whenever the new signing day is. Hopefully that DocuSign comes through and it works out. So yeah, that's all I have on that. You guys have anything else?
Nope, all good.
So yesterday was a big day at before we go to that, have you guys seen the new field yet?
Yeah.
I am so jealous of that. I am so jealous of that. Like, they kept the grass field and they added the turf field and they got rid of that half 50-yard field. All we had was the half 50-yard and the full field like crammed in. Like, now I am so jealous of that, man. Them dudes are getting taken care of. Apparently there's rumors coming out like this new facility is going to be out of this world amazing. I wonder if that has a little bit to do with it too. I know facilities aren't really a thing anymore. That's a thing of the past. But I mean, seeing something like that has to make you like, man, I get to use this thing like it's the first time. Like, I am so jealous of that thing. That thing looks amazing. And it's only a field. You know what I mean? Like, like I said, we only have the half field and the full field. Just two fields out there now. Like, it's starting to look like a college football facility, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure, Coach. It's, what's interesting is obviously there's going to be kind of the balcony, right, view of the multiple floors on sort of that, my geography is so bad sometimes. I don't know if it's the south side or, kind of that, inner to campus.
It's the south. It's the south.
It's the south side. And so, but what's kind of a secret great place to sort of see that field, Coach, is when you're playing basketball on the third floor in the Lions Center, and you sort of go out, right outside where the two courts are. And then you sort of see the window, and that's kind of an ideal little peeking spot to kind of check out practice. So I think, Coach, to your point, obviously facilities aren't what they were 10 years ago, 8 years ago in terms of stature and in terms of kind of an enabler to get recruits. But again, what it shows is it's a symbol for how serious you are about football on your campus, right? And so the bigger the footprint you have as a football program on a physical campus, not in some satellite location, not in some adjacent place down the street, but really inside the heart of campus, that's subliminally and directly telling recruits, look, this is a serious place about football, and the investment is there, the excitement is there, and there's really kind of an emphasis on being great in football. So I don't think it's the enabler that it once was, but I think it's all very positive. And I think, to your point, it's going to make recruits kind of raise their eyebrows for sure.
What are they doing with the McKay Center? Do any of you guys know what's going to happen to the McKay Center?
I think it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
I think this is an and. I mean, I don't think it's not like replacing the McKay Center in any way.
But isn't the new thing so the new thing is just a football facility?
Yeah.
Oh, about time. Oh, yeah. They're about time.
Old Heritage Dideau Field, right? It's like curved around there.
Yeah. I know they're moving D-Dog Field like a couple of yards or feet or towards the street. What's that? Vermont that runs that way. So definitely. All right,
McClintock, forward. I think, right? McClintock.
McClintock is the street when you go out the north gate. That
I got you.
Yeah.
See, I told you, man, my geography is not great. So
yeah, they're moving it towards Vermont. So yeah. So
Downey parking structure level 4, another great spot to watch practice from. So.
Oh, nice. I used to get a lot of tickets in there, just to let you guys know, for summer workouts. A bunch of tickets. Hey,
Coach. So I got a quick story for you there. How many parking tickets you got while you were at SC?
Man, I'll just throw it between 30 and 45.
Okay. So you and I same boat, because I was between 30 and 45 too. Usually when I ask people that question, like former Trojans, I always win. So much respect, Coach. I mean, we were parking delinquents together. I had one where I actually went into the parking center to fight a ticket, and while I was fighting the ticket in the parking center, I got a ticket. So, you know.
I even got my bike towed because I didn't register my bike. So
that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
And they told me, that was like, oh, you didn't register it. So if you don't register it, or if you don't pay the $200 per semester to register it, they take your bike and they resell it. And I seen a girl riding my bike. I chased her down. I said, that's my bike. And then that's when I found out, like, no, you never registered it. So they resold it and she bought it. I'm like, that's crazy. You guys are crooks. Anyway, neither here nor there. All the memories. Big day yesterday for USC before camp kicked off. Media day, which is a new thing. All we had was Salute to Troy, but you know, college football is evolving. Professional football is evolving. Like if you saw today the new kickoff, which I'm actually for, but that's a conversation for another day to explain why I'm for it. But they have these big media days now before camp kicks off. USC had their media day yesterday. It's no longer just Salute to Troy. They have a media day, and then sometime in camp later they'll have Salute to Troy. Which, Ryan, we should try to get to that. We should see if we can get press credentials to go Salute to Troy. That's a big deal. And then, so our man Ryan Dairu was there live and direct. He's a traveling man. He's been in Indy. He's in El Segundo right now with the Chargers. Yesterday, he was at media day. What big spills? Let's start off with this. What's Lincoln Riley like right now? How's he talking? How's he feel about going into camp?
Yeah, I mean, definitely excited. He just did like a 4.5 minute opening statement, and then this was for like assistant coaches and players that weren't on Big Ten, so didn't take any questions. But he talked about the facility. Obviously, fired up. They'll be playing on that field turf tomorrow for the first time, so it's the first time they'll get their feet on it too. But yeah, fired up about the start of the season and the staff they've built. And I don't think there was much new from him from the opening day. They only have 4 players that aren't going to be full participants in practice, none of which are I don't want to say starting caliber, but of the main 22 starters, none of which are that. So someone like Jalen Smith has been banged up. He'll be a full go start at camp. Eric Gentry, full go start at camp. So I think that was the big newsworthy thing. But yeah, fired up. And I got to say, Reggie Bush's Heisman was back in the building, so that was
nice.
There was a Heisman on every table, right? That was a nice touch. That was a very nice touch by USC.
But there wasn't enough tables, so they had to bring in 2 stands for the other 2 Heismans, one of which was Reggie's.
That's weak. You know, you gotta have it all there. You know, you gotta
have. No, they were all there.
But you got to have like 8 giant tables. You don't have any tables without a Heisman trophy. You know, that's what you got to do.
It was in the Berkshire Lounge. There was no room for more tables. It was maxed at tables. They had to do a couple just stands for the other 2. There was like 50 media people there. It was pretty packed.
That was good to see that Reggie's trophy is back. So you talked to a good friend of the show. You didn't talk to him, but you were there for the interview for the good friend of the show, Coach Henny, Eric Henderson. How's he feel going into camp?
Good. Yeah, I think he's fired up. Talked about, again, like any good sound bites. I think one of the things I took away from him was he was talking about, Bear Alexander and his hunger to be better. He says he's one of the first guys in his office. He lives in his office, just trying to get better, trying to learn. One of the first guys he talked to when he was hired was Bear, and with the rest of the defensive line, but specifically was asked about Bear. And so it's just good to hear a guy of his caliber that is willing and wanting to learn. Because, there's guys, and I'm not saying this was anyone recent, but there's guys all through history, this coach, this too, Jamal, that have all the talent, but what's their work ethic like? What's their really hunger to get better and learning the game and the intricacies? And I'm sure you've done that just coaching, Coach, with players of yours. So, it's all talk, but when he specifically called that out, that, yeah, Bear's hungry to learn. He sees huge ceiling expectations for him. I think that was cool. And other than that, just, talked about relationship with Danton Lynn, going back to the Chargers, relationship with Coach Nua and how they've really set things off, being both kind of the co-D line coaches and whatnot. So always good from Henny. He definitely had the biggest, it's small. So, but how they did it was they had each group come in with their assistant coaches. And so the players were all at the table around you could go to one by one. The coach was up kind of at the podium. And so you kind of had to pick and choose where you go. And so when they came in, it was like, okay, do we go to Bear? Do we go to Coach Henny? And they actually had Bear come in first with his rest of his class, and Henny showed up 15 minutes later. I don't know if that was planned or he was just late, but I think they knew the draw. So as soon as everyone was around Bear, and then basically Henny showed up, and then everyone was around Henny, and then obviously Nate Clift and other guys. But yeah, Henny good as always.
You mentioned D'Anton Lynn. D'Anton Lynn, did he speak yesterday? And if he did, how fired up is he about being on the right side of town and transforming this defense?
Yeah, D'Anton Lynn was there. I'm realizing it's Danton, not D'Anton. So after saying it, so it says it's Dan Lynn. Jamal, I know obviously you covered UCLA more, so you heard him more, and we've done a little bit, but just a very even keel, soft spoken, super smart, definitely a relationship guy, but he's not going to give you the highs and lows. Just very polite. So, good guy, but you definitely fired up, talked a little bit, obviously not scheme and whatnot, but just talked about, recruiting with his team, building this staff out, his relationship with Riley, and kind of why he wanted to come to SC, which was obviously an opportunity to build something, great and reestablish a great defensive culture and an overall culture. So yeah, he was fired up, but definitely just much more even keel, but always good.
So he basically said you can't build culture at UCLA. Got it. Moving on. Speaking. Let's say his name right. Dance. What is it? Say it for me.
Danton.
Just don't assume an apostrophe. Just sort of pronounce it like there's no apostrophe.
Yeah.
Danton Lynn. So I've been watching Arizona UCLA. I got Arizona UCLA film that's going to come up on Coach's Corner this August, preluding to the LSU game. Got a lot of clips. He does a lot of good things, and this is just a prelude of what we're going to talk about. He does a lot of good things, but then at times he gets into this thing to where he overthinks and takes himself out of a good situation. And it's kind of questionable. That's what I see. Like at times he has the right numbers in the box, and at time he doesn't have the right numbers in the box. It makes you. I wish I could this is the time when I wish I could sit down and talk to him. Like, why did you do this at this point in time, and what made you do it? Like, it's not a knock against him. It's more of my mind being curious of just the football side. Like, what made you do this at this point in time, and why did you do it at this point in time? So. And we'll get into that definitely. Coach Belk. Coach Belk has also been a big name this offseason. Coach Belk came in to talk. What does Coach Belk have to say?
Coach Belk, I think he's kind of one of the more not underrated hires, but maybe not talked about as much. But him and Coach Jones, the running back coach, were the two most, I think, I don't want to say they're all pretty personable, but they kind of give you a little more, and maybe Coach Entz too. But Coach Belk was great, super knowledgeable, obviously. My big takeaway from all this, because again, it's a media thing, so you're not going to get crazy sound bites since everyone's pretty buttoned up in what they're talking about. But just the knowledge this staff has is pretty unquestioned. Because this is my third year now, so I was at 2 years with the other defensive staff, and I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm not putting that out there, but just the fact that you have all of these guys have been either DCs or head coaches. Like, you can tell the way they talk and the way they prepare and the way they answer questions. And Belk, has been a DC and obviously with Houston. So I talked to him more about, what it's been like collabing with this coaching staff, like how fun is the collabing and how do you guys kind of riff off each other. And so, he mentioned, and we have all these interviews up, by the way, on our YouTube that everyone can watch, but just talked about how the collaboration is great, and you never know. I think one thing he said is you never know when you have this much smart minds, like, is it going to butt heads or is everyone going to collaborate well? And he said it's been a tremendous collaboration, and they can all kind of, hey, this is what I did as DC, and we'll get to Coach Entz, but this is what I did as a head coach. And so the collaboration has been great, and they're able to kind of pinpoint certain things. And Belk obviously works really closely with Dan Lynn, because Dan Lynn being a secondary guy first before being DC, they kind of have built that secondary scheme together. So, but Belk was cool, man. He was a super cool dude.
So, coaches, I have an interesting question for you. I don't even think anybody even thought to ask this question. He's coming from being a head coach at one of the most prestige Division I AA schools, North Dakota State. he's coming here to become a linebacker coach, not even the defensive coordinator. And how does that help Lincoln Riley any sorts? Does Lincoln Riley, and I don't know if this was mentioned or not, but does Lincoln Riley lean on him to get any head coaching advice? And what is the respect like amongst him with his peers?
You must have watched the press, because I did kind of ask that
Nice.
in a roundabout way. I basically asked, like, how have you been able, with head coaching experience, been able to maybe not influence, but help, Coach Riley in head coaching circumstances. So he said it's been great. Like, he's like, Riley's the coach, like, I'm the linebacker coach. So what, to your first part, kind of you alluded to, he said, aside from the opportunity to come to Southern California, one of his big reasons for taking that to linebacker was because he could truly just be like a coach again, kind of like what Chip Kelly did, right? Going to Ohio State, just truly just coach the guys, recruit, but not have to be the CEO, the admin, all the boosters, do all that stuff. He could just get down to football. So that was something that he really loved, but he can still bring that head coaching mentality, which he does. And you hear the linebackers talk about it. Easton Mascarenas Arnold and all these guys are like, Entz is a head coach, but he's our linebacker coach. The biggest thing I think hopefully Trojan fans will like, before I just ramble more, is he did mention he's been, I don't want to say working extensively, but certainly helping with special teams. So, which is an area obviously everyone likes talking about, because there's no official special teams coordinator, but coming from a program, being the head coach, obviously overseeing some special teams while being the head coach, I think any advice he can give is warranted. And he said Riley's been super receptive to basically any conversation they have.
So actually, that's a normal thing before they added the 10th coach, position coach or some type of coordinator. Like Todd McNair was our special teams coach. Like he was in charge of special teams. And so it was Todd McNair my first year, and then it became Dave Watson. Dave Watson took over all the special teams, but each individual position coach had a special team that they were in charge of. And it was like that when I was coaching, because we didn't have a super huge staff. So each individual coach had, so that's kind of a thing of the past and classic. So it's not anything new. I think it's just more forgotten. And I think that works better because it keeps you more involved. If you have just a special teams coach that does all the special teams, I think you kind of separate yourself and you lose that part of the game, if that makes sense. And so a player really can't ask you a question. It keeps you in tune to the game. It's my opinion, but what I know. Overall, Ryan, did we get what good sound bites? And like Ryan said, you go to our YouTube, you could go to LAFB Network and see articles that's been put up. There's more articles coming for USC Media Day. Anything you took away? What's your biggest takeaway from the USC Media Day?
Yeah, aside from kind of what I said, and I think all the coaches just had a big admiration for Coach Riley. I think that was very evident. All the new coaches talked about a huge reason why they came here was because of Coach Riley and his excellence and play calling and wanting to build something special. I think one little tidbit, which was super cool, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Coach Henson, the offensive line coach, was kind of asked about, freshman, well now sophomore offensive tackle Elijah Paige, like when the light switch came on for him last year, because he didn't really play until the Holiday Bowl when he really balled out. And we didn't know this because, again, at practice we get shoved away, so you don't see when things happen. But he said around week 6 or 7, he got knocked down to scout team from where he was before. And so for 3 or 4 weeks, he was on scout team going up against bullies, and obviously that's not where you want to be when you have his caliber. And so he said, and then we asked Elijah Paige about it later, kind of like what that meant, and it was like, yeah, that was like the moment that really snapped him, because he said he was progressing, but then kind of hit a plateau. And then so putting him on scout team really then elevated him to kind of overcome that plateau and become the player that he is now. And obviously still has a ways to go. But, as you go to the Big Ten, offensive line is going to be a big, big conversation all the time. And you got to have those big guys playing at the highest level. So that was a little cool thing that maybe we would not know had we not been there.
And you know what he could have done? He could have hit the portal, but he stayed, because that's what Trojans do. Jamal, you got anything for Ryan from USC Media Day?
No, I mean, Coach, I certainly wasn't there, and Ryan provided such a great summary. I mean, I'll try and recap some of the things that I heard and sort of read and sort of observed from other sources. It seems like one of the big takeaways from Media Day is that this team is a lot more together and cohesive than even last year. I think that there was some conversation just with players on different tables and whatnot where they're sort of talking as a unit. They're sort of rooting for each other. You can feel kind of a camaraderie and a connection where last year maybe that wasn't the case. There were certain examples, I think, on the defensive side with certain transfer portal guys. It's like, well, you're a transfer. What have you done here versus a guy that's been there long term? So there were these kind of divisions. And I thought what was really interesting, there was kind of a reference at Media Day to last year, perhaps the wide receiver room not being maybe as connected and cohesive. It seemed like there was some tension there, and I don't know if it was specifically with Taj and Brendan or what, but there was definitely kind of an undertone that last year maybe there was some tension there in that room in particular. And this year, all these guys are rooting for each other. They're all kind of the same age, so they're all kind of sophomores together going through the same experiences. So I think that's kind of one big takeaway. I think the other, everyone's kind of really excited to see in fall camp what the interior of this defense kind of looks like outside of Bear. And I think we all know that Bear's the stalwart. He's an anchor. But who's going to be next to Bear on that interior? I think a lot of sense right now is it's probably Nate Clifton's kind of the leader. And obviously you see Nate Clifton, you see Jade Abizari, you see all of these guys, their pictures, even Zach Branch. I mean, guys looking kind of shredded and, gaining 20, 30 pounds overall, getting down to under 5% body fat. So I think there's a question right now, who's going to be alongside Bear? And I think that'll kind of play out in fall camp. But I think overall strength and conditioning, much like the culture, I think has been improved. And then I think there's some questions now with the edge. I think Braylon Shelby feels like he's going to be one primary edge for sure. Obviously, as long as we don't have him running wheel routes like we did last year against Utah, I think it's going to be okay. And what's the other part of that edge going to look like? I think there's a sense right now that we're deep at linebacker, but who's going to emerge as the alphas? We talked a little bit about Davis and Gentry and Mascarenas, Arnold and Cobb. Who's really going to kind of emerge and sort of take that room over? Feels like the secondary is the strongest room actually on this team. Probably secondary and receiver are probably the strongest room. And then I think the last takeaway that, I was sort of observing and hearing is that there's questions around, what's the depth of the offensive line? I think we're pretty clear on the starter. Maybe the only question right now is right guard. I think Alani Noah is going to be that starter right now. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse and probably will be the case. But obviously Big Ten play, 12-game season, hopefully more. If folks go down, is there faith there in offensive line depth? So I think those were maybe 5 or 6 additional themes to what Ryan mentioned about things that were kind of popping up. Culture, strength and conditioning, some questions, on the interior, who's going to be the edge, and then O-line depth. So, but I think all questions that are going to be unveiling themselves here in the days and weeks to come, leading into the opener against LSU.
So guess what, guys? The season starts tomorrow. Tomorrow, the season officially starts. I'm excited. I can't wait. We're moving into it. LSU in 30 days. We got LSU in 30 days. September 1st, we'll be in Vegas kicking off against LSU. So it's time to go. I'm excited. It's nothing better. It's the crazy part. I'm just going to give you guys a little reminiscence. Here's the crazy thing about camp. You're excited about moving into Floor Hall because you're about to start camp and you're getting ready for a season. By the third day, you hate living in Floor Hall. Well, Floor Tower.
Floor
Tower.
I
know Floor Tower. I apologize. Floor Tower. I don't want the alumni coming to get me. Floor Tower. If it's still named Floor Tower, I don't even know if it's still
I think it is Floor Tower. Yeah.
Like, you're excited about moving in. You're like, all right, we're starting camp. You're good that first day. You're good the second day. The third day, you're like, I hate these plastic mattresses. I can't get any good sleep. Like, the box fan is not enough. I'm ready to move out. Like, I'm done. And then before you know it, Saturday feels like Tuesday. All the days are the same. You're just completely locked down. And then I'm going to tell you guys, and we probably won't know because it's closed practice. Do you know when the height of camp happens? And it happens in every single camp, and they make a big deal about it now because people, like, I don't know how to say it, like they haven't been watching football their whole lives or they haven't really paid attention. Do you know what's the one moment that sparks the height of camp? And it happens in every single camp. We've already seen 2 of them on social media. What's the one thing that sparks the height of camp? Do you guys know?
Are you saying like an argument or a fight?
There you go, Ryan. Once the fight happens, you're at the peak of camp. Everybody is tired. Everybody's frustrated. Everybody hurts. And then somebody does something that's so small, and then you got whistles blowing. This happened in Pittsburgh. This happened in Tennessee. Happens in every single camp around the nation. There's always going to be a fight. It's just the way when you're around somebody 14 days and that's all you see, you kind of get tired of them. And it is what it is. But once the fight happens, you made it to the hill, and now you're just all the way downhill. So,
Ryan, coach, who do you think is most likely to sort of engage in the fight? That's who's most chippy in your opinion?
I say Bear and Alani Noah. I say it's going to be Bear and Alani Noah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I would say Easton Mascarenas Arnold for sure.
And who
probably.
Against who though?
I mean, probably Mason Murphy. I'll go Jonah Monheim.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mike on middle. But Mascarenas said he's by far the most vocal on defense, so he chews people out. He said so. I
got a feeling it's going to be receiver corner. I got a feeling just given how good those 2 units are, and I think they're going to kind of get into each other. I could see kind of a Vance, Branch, type of situation, or a Vance Lane, type of situation.
I see a Ramsey
fight
Lane.
May not always start in the trenches.
Yeah. I definitely see a Ramsey Lane. I could see a Ramsey Lane.
Too. Yeah. Ramsey Lane.
Or Lemon. Yeah, Lemon scrappy. Real quick, cool thing about Vance, and it's super quick, but he said the reason why he chose SC, he literally talked to Danton Lynn and heard his scheme for like 45 seconds.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
it. I'm going there.
That's great.
Definitely. So we'll be talking about the team this month. We're talking about we've been talking about SC football, but now we're talking about football season and stuff.
What else have we been talking about?
Yeah, it's football season now. We got lots of football season stuff. It's time to start talking about games. This
is so hard, right? Like, I mean, think about it. This is just such a bizarre sport. We have to sort of acknowledge that the sport goes on for 3 months, and then for 9 months we're talking about things, adjacent to the game, and it's going to be so great to be able to talk about the game again, for the next 3 months.
And you guys know how excited I am. What I always say, Ryan, Jamal, that's your specialty. You guys go ahead and take it. Now I'm in my realm. Like, I can't wait to start talking about football. I mean, I finally got film again, Jamal, believe it or not. Did you see the last show?
I did.
I got the film again, so we're way better than everybody else, and I'm gonna get really good at it. Yeah. So, man, I'm so excited. Camp is upon us. The Raiders theme. All I think about when camp is about to start is the Raiders theme, like the guy talking. I don't know his exact words, but I always hear the voice. It's like the dawns are coming upon you. Like, you see the cloud coming. What are you gonna do? So. It's football season, guys. It's football season. Hopefully, we go all the way to January 20th. Hopefully. We go all the way to January 20th.
Yeah, I mean, that would be lovely.
That would be great.
But I will settle for January.
I mean, we'll be going regardless, but show never stops.
Well, I mean,
hopefully we have a team to talk about
I think you got to caveat that, Coach, a little bit. It's like we're going to January, but like, the real January, I don't want to be playing in the Cactus Bowl, January 4th before the playoff.
No. I mean the playoff. You're right. That is.
They got there's a couple of the Pinstripe Bowl and the Home Depot Bowl and the
Cheez-Its Bowl, and you would get
Cheez-Its Bowl. They throw some of those in there first week of January. So just to be clear, I knew what you were talking about, but just to sort of bulletproof what you were saying.
And I'm a firm believer to this, and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this next week, but believe it or not, and we'll leave it at this cliffhanger before we sign off. Believe it or not, this year will be good, but this year is not the year. That's my thought about it. This year will be good, and this year's not the year, and it determines on 3 factors: how good can Miller Moss be, how good is the defense going to improve, and can Lincoln Riley get out of his own way? We'll leave it at that, and we'll talk about that on Monday. To be continued across the thing. Ryan will just log off right now. No, I'm just joking, but no, that's something we'll jump into on Monday, and we'll let everybody state their opinions, and then we could get in there and talk to it. But it's been a fun one. 40 minutes in, 40 minutes out. You guys got anything before you wrap up?
No, sir. Thank you, gents. Pleasure as always.
Appreciate you guys. I appreciate the fans. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. You guys know how it goes. Live free. Fight on.